Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising trilogy, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again. Each book is a compilation of features about cruisers and cruise and travel personalities from around the world. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul. And this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am delighted to welcome a special guest, Lisa Lutoff-Perlo. Among the global cruise personalities we are blessed to host, today I am honored to welcome another one of those Googleable individuals we occasionally have the honor to present on the Joy of Cruising podcast. Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, the chief executive of Celebrity Cruises from 2015 to 2023, is admired across the cruise industry for her accomplishments during her tenure at Celebrity, and she is a role model to women leaders and aspiring leaders beyond cruising. The legion of women and men interested in the leadership lessons of Lisa's brilliant career is about to grow significantly because today, February 20, Lisa's new book, Making Waves, A Woman's Rise to the Top Using Smarts, Heart, and Courage, is released. So, besides being fortunate to be able to host someone of Lisa's stature on the Joy of Cruising podcast, we get to do so on the launch day of her new bestseller-to-be. It's the stuff dreams are made of, to start at the bottom and make it to the top. But that's what happened to the Vice Chairman of External Affairs for the Royal Caribbean Group and former CEO of Celebrity Cruises, Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, who got her start in an entry-level sales position selling cruises door-to-door to travel agencies in New England, and then found herself running a multi-billion-dollar global company. Lisa is a high-impact leader in the travel and hospitality industry. His vision and strategy not only propelled Celebrity Cruises to achieve transformational financial results as a brand within the Royal Caribbean Cruises portfolio, but also dramatically increased the number of women in leadership roles throughout the Celebrity brand. Her passion for building extraordinary ships, creating unique experiences, and opening up the world through travel has brought recognition and countless awards to Lisa and Celebrity Cruises. Lisa and Celebrity have achieved global impact, earning her a reputation as a trailblazer, bringing transformation, diversity, and inclusion into the travel and hospitality industry and onto bridges of ships. Welcome, Lisa, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Well, thank you, Paul. It is a pleasure to be here.
It is wonderful to meet you virtually. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself? I'm getting ready for the holidays and all is good. How about you?
The same. It's wonderful that I get to do this interview with you, and after it's over, I'll probably turn my attention to my next adventure, which is a Christmas cruise.
Wonderful.
with my daughters and wife and grandkids. So I'm in the spirit.
Great. That's wonderful to hear.
So I tried to fit a lot into that introduction of you, but fill in some holes. Where you're from, your background before entering the cruising industry, where do you live now? Anything you are willing to share.
Okay. Sure. I'm happy to do that. I was born in a small fishing town in Massachusetts, Gloucester, Massachusetts, made famous by The Perfect Storm and the movie Coda. I spent my entire childhood there, and as a young adult, I left Gloucester and went into the hotel business before coming into the cruise business. I've been with the company for 39 years, and I will be leaving the company in April of 2024. I currently live in Plantation, Florida, which is outside of Fort Lauderdale in Broward County. And I've lived in Florida since 1989 when I moved here with my first promotion in the company from district sales manager to regional sales manager.
Great, great. So before we go any further, let me say congratulations on the publication of Making Waves.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
In a chapter called "Not Everyone Has a Plan," you made it clear that you never thought of yourself in a role like president and CEO of Celebrity Cruises, and you did not have that in your career plan. Talk about that.
I did not. Well, I guess as I look back on my career and I think about all of the positions that I've had and where I ended up and how I went from the very bottom as a district sales manager out in the field and then made it to the top as president and CEO, I thought about how I navigated my career, and I realized that I really didn't have a plan for all of the different things that I did and all of the different positions that I held. I was always under the impression I would stay in sales for all of my career and end up as the vice president or senior vice president, the head of sales. That was really my only thought or ambition until somebody that I worked for recognized potential in me that I probably didn't recognize in myself. And he moved me from sales to marketing. And that was the first move of many that I made in my career into different roles, different brands. And then ultimately, probably almost 30 years after I started in the company, I finally thought that being president and CEO of one of the brands was an ambition of mine. And then at that point in time, I did all of the necessary things to accomplish that goal. But it was never my plan until very late in my career. And I think in that chapter, what I try to get across to people is it's okay if you don't have a plan. Sometimes opportunities come your way that you don't expect. And as long as you're open to those opportunities and open to doing different things, your career, your life might take you to a place you never dreamed of, like mine did.
In another chapter called "The Edge of Glory," you mentioned how you are often asked, what is the proudest moment of your career? And you single out the launching of the Edge series of ships. Take us through that.
Well, for anyone that cruises or anyone that's familiar with the cruise industry, the reason I look at launching the Edge series of ships as the proudest moment in my career is it really established the transformation of Celebrity Cruises with this magnificent series of ships that no one expected. It also transformed the industry relative to the caliber of ship, the type of accommodations, the design on the ship, the culinary experiences that people really did not believe could happen on a ship the size of the Edge series. And we were able to accomplish that. And it transformed Celebrity, the brand, the financial performance. It transformed the industry, and even to this day continues to be in a class of its own. And I think anytime in any of our careers that we can accomplish something like that, it is a truly proud moment for us. And again, one that, we never dreamed we could make happen. So that's why the Edge series stands out in that way in my career. And in addition to that, Malala Yousafzai was the godmother. And so, when you think about such a heroic ship and such a transformational ship, and then such a heroic and transformational godmother, it was really the culmination of so many fabulous things that happened with the introduction of that series of ships that it just continues. I still get goosebumps when I talk about it.
Speaking of the Edge series, my favorite ship from any cruise line happens to be the Beyond. And I know that sounds Is he just saying that because I'm on? But if you go back and you listen to past episodes of the podcast, you will hear me say that many times.
Uh-huh.
My favorite ship is Beyond, although we are booked on the Ascent. We sailed the Mediterranean on Beyond last October for our 30th anniversary. So it has a
How wonderful.
yeah, it has a special place in our lives. Talk about that ship in particular and its place in your career.
Well, what's interesting is when we were building Celebrity Edge, and I was having conversations with the head of our new build team, Harry Kulavara, I often commented that I wished Edge was slightly bigger. I thought it could be a little longer and a little taller, and that we could accomplish and create even more amazing experiences for our guests.
Mm-hmm.
When I first came into my role as president and CEO of Celebrity, the Edge series it was actually already done, but we started over once I came into the role. And then we were limited in what we could do on Edge as far as the transformation of the design, because the steel structure was already in place and we could not do anything to change that. So when we were able to get to the third in the series, so Edge and Apex were sister ships, but the third in the series enabled us the ability to stretch the ship, make it a little longer and a little taller. And then it got us the ability to enhance so many of the spaces like the Grand Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
I actually agree with you, Paul. My favorite ship in the series is Beyond,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so appropriately named
Mm-hmm.
because we never thought we could go on beyond Celebrity Edge, but then we did when we had the extra space to work with on Celebrity Beyond. And now we've just introduced Celebrity Ascent, which is number 4 in the series, and just as beautiful as Celebrity Beyond.
You may not answer this next question. I suspect this is like asking a parent, which one is your favorite child? What's your favorite ship in the Royal Caribbean Group fleet? So not in the Edge series, but all of
Yeah,
the
no,
ships.
yeah, no, I have to say, so I guess I would have to say of all the ships, and they're all so special, and you're right, you can't pick one. It's like picking your favorite child. But I think I would have to say Beyond, like you, Celebrity Beyond, only because when we were introducing Celebrity Beyond after we introduced Celebrity Edge a few years before, I wasn't sure that we would be able to get the reaction that we got to that ship the same as we did with Celebrity Edge.
Mm-hmm.
And every single person we talked to said it was beyond anything they could have possibly imagined. And they didn't think we could go beyond what a great job we did with Celebrity Edge.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about that, I think that when you accomplish something like you did with Celebrity Edge, and then people say, oh my God, I didn't think you could even go further, I would have to say Celebrity Beyond is my favorite ship. I love the size of the ships. I love the flow of the ships. I love the relaxed luxury feeling you get on the ships. I love how they make you feel like you're in a resort versus on a cruise ship, because so many cruise ships are so similar in design, and we really took the Edge series and blew up how people understand or think about ship design, especially for a ship the size of those ships. And when people told me they didn't think the cruise industry could do luxury at scale, I disagreed with them and said, if Las Vegas can do luxury at scale, the cruise industry can do luxury at scale. And that's what we looked to accomplish with the Edge series.
Great. Let's talk about making waves.
Okay.
So your new book, Making Waves, A Woman's Rise to the Top Using Smarts, Heart, and Courage, is out today.
Yes.
As an author, I think I can imagine how you feel. So tell us, how do you feel?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I felt when I became president and CEO of Celebrity Cruises. I never in my wildest dreams, maybe unlike you, Paul, thought that I would be the author of a book, but I am. And it feels unbelievably great. And it's a little surreal for me, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also amazing and wonderful. I'm proud of the book, And and I really hope that people get out of the book what my intention was, which was to share the lessons I learned throughout my career and how I made it from the bottom to the top. But more importantly, how I became a better professional, a better leader, a better person, and continue to evolve myself and learn along the way. And that's what I was hoping to share with Making Waves.
Yeah, making waves is interesting. It's kind of like a combination of a memoir and a leadership a textbook almost. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I used to teach leadership at the college level, and in one course I had, it was a graduate level course, and I would assign, or I would give the students a choice of of a leadership book, a very well recognized leadership book, Good to Great, Emotional Intelligence, a number of books like that. And I'll be honest with you, and I know this may sound like I'm just making this up, but I would have no problem assigning your book
Thank you.
because there were so many leadership lessons, but there was also the what I call the memoir aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, the reason, and I agree with you, it was, and I think the reason there's a memoir aspect to it is because, I actually did the things that I talk about in the book. And so I tried to illustrate the lessons through stories, through actual things that happened to me throughout my
Hmm.
career, not only in my business life, but in my personal life, that definitely shaped me and helped me learn those lessons. So
Hmm.
it is a blend. At the heart of this book, it's a leadership book. It's a book of lessons in leadership. But again, it's told in a memoir style because it's told through my stories. One person that I let read the book, who wrote a testimonial for the book, Anthony Melchiori, he and he's an author himself, like you, Paul. And after he read the book, he videotaped himself and sent it to me and told me that he hopes that Making Waves becomes the new standard in leadership books, because I didn't try to tell a pretty perfect story about going from the bottom through to the top. I wanted to tell
Hmm.
an honest, authentic story about what it's really like, and that it isn't easy, and it's filled with ups and downs and good things and not so good things. But in the end, if you can learn from them and you can overcome them, you too can make it to the top just like I did. I wanted it to be a story that said, if I can do it, you can do it.
Speaking about honest and authentic, two instances or situations you described in Making Waves really grabbed me. In fact, Making Waves grabbed me right away as it opened at the pinnacle of your career.
Yeah.
Under your leadership, Celebrity was coming off its most successful year. Edge was critically acclaimed. Apex was due to be delivered, and you boarded the Edge for the historic and barrier-breaking International Women's Day cruise, which was just you know, like I said, the pinnacle
Yeah.
of your career to that point. And then within days, the cruise industry pivoted to the realm of the totally unknown, a
Yeah.
global shutdown,
Yeah.
and all that entailed for the cruise lines. Talk about that whipsaw of events.
Oh, in thinking back, when you're living it, it's so, again, surreal. And thinking back, when I was writing that chapter, having to relive going from that unbelievable high to that unbelievable low, you wonder in retrospect how you get through those things, right? And how you go from the pinnacle of everything that you wanted to accomplish in your career and for your brand and for the things that you believe in and stand for, to going home for the weekend and not going back to work and shutting down for 15 months. And part of what I tried to talk about in that chapter so that people would understand is that we experienced the unthinkable. I never in my entire almost 40-year career thought our industry would shut down, completely shut down. And then the unthinkable happened. And all of that chapter is about pivoting and realizing that things are going to come your way that you never expect, that are catastrophic. And you can choose to let those things cripple you or not recover from those things, or you can internalize what's happening and pivot your leadership style, because your teams and people need different things at different times from leaders. And I just remember thinking, I felt the same way my team did. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know when we were going to be back in business. I didn't know if we were going to be back in business, but I knew it was my job to keep everyone hopeful, inspired, motivated, and give them the confidence that everything was going to be okay. And so you have to dig deep as a leader to think about how you dial down certain attributes and dial up certain attributes to get your team through these really dark days, but also yourself. And also in chapter 1, as you know, because you've read the book, I lost my sister during the same time. And those are the 2 worst things that have ever happened in my life. And they happened at the same time. And that was a horribly difficult time for me, and personally and professionally. I've gotten over the whole COVID thing, and we got the business back, and, losing my sister is something I'll never get over. But to have to go through those 2 things to such a horrible degree was quite sobering. And I learned a lot about myself and what it takes, because I'm also the leader of my family. So I had to keep my family together and hopeful, and take care of my sister and my family and my parents who were losing a child. And I had to get through being shut down and getting 20,000 people through 15 months of uncertainty and fear of not having their jobs or not coming back. So yeah, that's how I opened the book. Pretty intense, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And then I go on to say a year later, you just alluded to it, I said a somewhat similar situation, that is a hopeful, celebratory event followed by a devastating, incredibly sad occurrence took place. And that's when you and Celebrity did an industry first virtual reveal of the game changer, Celebrity Beyond. And at the same time, literally in the next room over, you were dealing with an incredibly painful situation, and that's your sister. So, say a little more about that.
Well, again, it's a lesson in how you just cope with those things, because you never know what's going to come your way in life, and you've got these 2 terrible things happening, and you have to compartmentalize them both, because I certainly needed to be there for my sister, and I needed to be there for the brand and my team who had worked so hard. It was the first ship ever revealed in a virtual way during this shutdown. It was a really important ship for Celebrity. You and I have just talked about how special Beyond was, and I needed to be happy, and I needed to be enthusiastic, and I needed to present myself and this ship to the media, worldwide, global media, because when you do things virtually, you have even a bigger audience than you would otherwise have, because they don't need to physically get there, and they can all tune in. And it was supposed to be just a really happy and wonderful day for the brand, but at the same time, it was the saddest day of my life. So, yeah, you'd have to find that inner strength to be who you need to be at any given time for the people that are counting on you, was really the lesson that I learned. And you do have to put these different parts of your life in a bubble so that you can carry on in the way that you need to. But then right after that reveal, I also say I went right back to my sister's room and sat with her. I got through it though. And people afterwards that worked for us after, they learned about my sister, couldn't believe that I conducted that Beyond reveal the way that I did, given what was happening in my personal life. And I was was grateful for that. I was grateful that I was able to carry on in a way that people didn't know what was really happening behind the
Now,
scenes.
curiosity question, Lisa, and I know this is painful, but leading up to the reveal, did many of your colleagues and friends know what was going on with your sister?
Well, we were in isolation. It was during COVID, and I hadn't seen my team or anyone in a really long time because we were all home. We were all, sheltered in place pretty much, more or less. But my team knew. I did share with my team because I wanted them to know that at certain times I would not be available and why. And some close family friends knew, but not a broad circle of people. We kept it fairly private, and just our family knew, our extended family, and so those were the people that knew. And it was, again, it was interesting and difficult and hard because you really weren't out socializing or being with people. We were all home. And I talk about the silver lining in the COVID-19 cloud, and the silver lining is that I was home and I was able to spend every single day with her.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
As a woman reaching rare air, the first in your company and one of the first in your industry, you stood out in your efforts to bring women along with you. There were many stories in the book, but I suspect my listeners are most familiar with Captain Kate.
Sure.
Talk about bringing her to your organization and promoting her to her historic assignment.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is that throughout my life and career, I have had the opportunity to intersect with amazing people who are very special in so many ways. And I remember the day, I don't remember the exact date, but I remember the day that I met Captain Kate McHugh. I was actually with Royal Caribbean at the time. I was in my executive vice president of operations role, where I was leading marine and hotel. And we were having our annual leadership conference where the captains and hotel directors would come into Miami, and we would have a few days of meetings. And all the captains cannot come because they're, navigating the ships, and they select certain staff captains to come. And Captain Kate at that time was a staff captain, and there were very few women in the room, as you can imagine, because in operations there aren't many women. So there were probably only a handful of women. We had all the hotel directors, all the captains. You had myself and Kate, and you had a couple of other women leaders. I think we had one woman hotel director at the time, and we did have some of the Royal Caribbean operations leaders. Maybe two of them were women. So there were a very small group of us. And I remember her coming up to me during one of the breaks. I had never met her before. She introduced herself, and we had a short conversation about how grateful she was to see a woman at the top, and how she really embraced the culture that I was creating, and the opportunities that I was creating for different people. And we had a lovely connection. And I remember after that conference, I went back to learn more about Captain Kate. And while during the time that I was at Royal Caribbean, she was never promoted to captain. There were a few opportunities that became available, but I guess others were in line ahead of her. And so I always consider it fortuitous for me that when I then became, shortly thereafter, the president and CEO of Celebrity, as the first woman to do that, I knew that Celebrity really needed a woman captain. And so I had someone reach out to Kate to see if she would join me at Celebrity and help begin the journey of more gender equality on the ships. And she was extremely excited. She had dreamed of being a captain her whole career. And she said, hell yes, that's exactly what she said. And she has done, I knew she was amazing. She's even more amazing than I knew because I got to know her more and more over the years. And she has been an amazing advocate for women. She's been an amazing recruiter. She's the most followed mariner on social media with over 3 million followers. And she's a great captain. She's a great captain. The crew loves her. The guests love her. She's very special. And she really helps people understand the behind the scenes, what goes on a ship and what it's like being a captain. And she celebrates what she does in the world as she visits it. So Captain Kate is very special. And she was the first step in going from 3% of women on our bridges when I started in my role at Celebrity to 33% when I stepped down from my role at Celebrity. So the wonderful men that I worked with every single day helped truly transform the gender balance on the ships.
What a wonderful story. Just so the listeners understand, just if you could just differentiate between a staff captain, which she was when she attended your meeting, and then what she ultimately became a captain.
Yeah, so staff captain is second in command, the number two job. Captain, it's the top seat. It's like being president and CEO of Celebrity. It's the top seat versus being
Sure.
executive vice president of operations. I went from second in command to the person in charge, and that's what Kate did. That's a big important step. Staff captains. I will say though that staff captains are fully licensed captains. They just
Sure.
have not had the opportunity to get command of their own vessel and be the master of the vessel. And so that was the difference. And while it's not a huge step relative to all of the education, licensing, and experience, it is a huge step in your career. And so going from staff captain to captain, it was it's a very big move, and it's a very special accomplishment for sure. And she had a goal of being captain by the time she turned 40, and she became captain at 35. So
There you go.
she beat her own ambition by 5 years. So good for Captain Kate. And I'm happy I was able to help make that happen.
In Making Waves, you define superpower and you identify yours. Tell the listeners about that.
It's chapter 8, and the title of the chapter is The Boomerang. And what is, what I think most leaders do is they probably think about themselves and what they believe they are the best at, right? How superpower is defined. It's defined, it's that one thing that sets you apart. And it's hard to do. And even I had to think about it, because as I was writing the book and I thought about myself and put myself in a leadership spot and thinking about how other leaders might think about this, I thought, what's mine? What's my superpower? And I define my superpower as the boomerang. And because I believe that you get back what you put out in the universe. And I believe that my ability to be as successful as I was at Celebrity was based on all of the different things that tens of thousands of people did that helped me be successful. I was not successful on my own. I knew that the only way I got to where I got to, listen, I know that I have a lot of talent and skills, and I have a lot of smarts, I have a lot of heart, and I have a lot of courage, but I also have a lot of people who worked really hard for me and with me in all of the different roles that I had that helped me achieve my career aspirations. And so what I believed was the way I treat people, the way I care for people, the way I pay it forward and help promote people, like Captain Kate achieve her dreams, those people are fully invested in your success. And they do it because they care, not because it's their job. And I believe that discretionary effort is priceless. And so every day of leadership and every day in my life, I practice the boomerang theory. And because I believe as a leader, you get back what you give. And I believe any smart leader knows that what they accomplish is through others, and it's how you treat others that's going to determine your ultimate success.
Mm-hmm.
And I also say one of my superpowers is the X factor, because I do believe, generally speaking, all the research shows that women probably do this better than men. And so I believe being a woman is one of my superpowers, because I did not believe that showing caring or showing vulnerability was a weakness. I believe it's a strength. And I use those things as my superpower.
Very good. Lisa, let's go way back. I always ask guests to recollect their first cruise. When, what ship, initial impressions of cruising.
Okay, well, my first cruise happened after I actually got into the travel business with a specialty in cruise. In 1983, I went to work for a travel agency as a person selling cruises at a company called Crimson Travel in Boston, Massachusetts. Huge agency network in Massachusetts at the time, and then they expanded into New England. My first cruise was a FAM cruise, which many of you might be familiar with, a familiarization cruise, and it happened to be on Cunard on the QE2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What an introduction to cruising.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't in I was like, the QE2 is very well known for its sort of class system, right, in terms of hierarchy. And they did it in a different way than the industry does it now, because I know there's suite experiences and the retreat experience, and those are different than other experiences, but you could really see the difference in the class system on Cunard when I was on the QE2. And I wasn't sure I loved it. So, but it was nice. It was lovely. I said, okay, this is what cruising is all about. It was my first foray. It was a very short cruise. And then after that, my next one was on Royal Caribbean. I was on the Nordic Prince when it first started out of New York to Bermuda. And it's the same, and it wasn't that much later than that, because it was just before, I think I was hired in May of 1985 in my district sales manager position, and I believe I was on the Nordic Prince in April of 1985. And so I was able to get a different feel for the different brands and the different ships. And so that was a really nice experience for me.
So in those early cruising experiences, were you hooked immediately, or did cruising have to grow on you?
I think it had to grow on me.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I never had a real full cruise experience. I only had little samplings of it. But I will tell you, when I finally got into the cruise business and I finally started cruising, totally hooked. Best vacation in the ever. Being new to the industry, not quite understanding cruising, just like consumers, I mean, listen, I spent 39 years of my career convincing people, or trying to convince people who didn't think they wanted to cruise, that cruising was a great vacation. And so I kind of learned the same thing. I got these little samples, I sampled a couple of different brands. But at the end of the day, as I got, my sea legs, if you will, and started seeing more ships and actually really taking a real cruise. My first real cruise was on Song of Norway in July of 1985. It was my training cruise. And that's when I got hooked on cruising. Because it was an amazing experience. I had the full experience. I was training with 5 other district sales managers. I saw how fabulous the experience was. I saw how much people really loved it. I experienced all the different places that ships could take you. It was a Caribbean cruise. And I think that's my training cruises when I actually got hooked on cruising.
Once you started working for Royal Caribbean and then Celebrity, how much of your time involved being on ships?
I guess it depended on my role. In sales and marketing, only on my vacations. I really wasn't on ships. But when I started going into operations, when I was running operations, I was on the ships quite a bit. I want to say maybe 30% of the time, maybe 35% of the time. I was always visiting ships. I was trying to vacation on ships. so that I could see what was going on. And it was always really important to me when I was leading either the operation or the brand that I was visible so that the crew would see me and know who I was, not just some person who sat in Miami in some, corner office that they couldn't connect to. So it was always very important for me to spend time on the ships. So at a minimum, I tried to spend a third of my time on the ships. And I always took vacations on ships. We always had a big family vacation, an extended family vacation, just like all of our guests, almost 40% of our guests, just like, when you travel with your daughters and your wife, I always took the family on an big annual vacation, and they were always the best vacations we ever took. And then I also got to experience a full cruise with our crew, and that always got me closer to them as well.
Now, you mentioned at the top of our discussion that you are leaving in April.
Yes.
Do you have big plans for leisure travel? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I will continue to travel because I love travel. I believe that travel is critical for society and all of us as human beings. Experiencing different people, different cultures, and different places makes us grow as people, and makes us realize and understand that we are all one group of people on sharing this planet with much more in common than differences. So I will always travel. In addition to that, I am thinking of other things that I want to do. Part of our conversation today was about those 2 or 3 years that we went through with COVID being shut down and then coming back and building back up. And I decided that at this point in my life and in my career, I'm leaving an amazing legacy behind with celebrity, and so proud of everything I did. But it's time to write a new chapter, literally and figuratively. I've got my new book coming out, and I'm writing a new chapter of my life. And a lot of that will include travel, but I'm promoting my book. I will be doing keynote speaking. I might do some executive coaching, and joining some more corporate boards. And then, just like in my career, I'm leaving myself open to see what else the universe has in store for me in this next chapter of my life and of my career. I'm not done yet, Paul.
On travel, do you have anything booked?
I do. I'm going to Tuscany in March.
Oh,
in
wow.
just a couple of weeks. I was at a charity event, and I bid on a villa in Tuscany.
Oh,
and I was the
wow.
successful bidder. So I'm going in March. And then my nephew, my sister, who I lost, her son is getting married in July in Colombia. So I'm going to Colombia for the first time, and I'm going to spend 6 days there going to his wedding, which is going to be a very wonderful and happy event, and also touring Colombia, which I've never done before. So those are the 2 other big trips that I have planned for 2024. And then, of course, I have a home in my hometown. My husband and I bought a place in 2017 because I wanted to spend more time in that beautiful seaside town with all of my extended family. So we spend chunks of weeks at a time when the weather is nice in Massachusetts. So my travel calendar is pretty full.
What about, I'm sure you have probably seen every corner of the world. Do you have a travel bucket list?
Do I have a travel bucket list? I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if I do. I'd like to go to Japan. I've never been to Japan. I just went on an African safari in August, this past August in 2023. It's another trip I got at a charity auction. I've been on safari, which was wonderful. I've been to really every place in the world. I'm very fortunate, and I don't really. There's no place else. I've been to Iceland, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Alaska, I've been to Asia, I've been to India, I've been to Australia, I've been to New Zealand, I've been to South Africa. I've been to Israel, beautiful. I've been there numerous times. So I had a beautiful trip for our 25th wedding anniversary. So I've really seen the world. Are there some places I'd like to go back to? Sure. That's why I'm going back to Italy. I love Italy. Other than Japan being the only place I really haven't immersed myself in, I'm happy with everywhere else I've been in the world.
Well, I know this sounds like I'm marketing my podcast. I guess I am, but listen to a podcast. I think it came out December 7th, like last week, and it's called "Traveling Judy" because much of her discussion, she just came back from a trip to Japan,
Oh,
and it was fascinating. She talked about, heard of the blue zones where
yeah, yeah.
so she talked about a blue zone in Okinawa. And
Uh-huh.
I could have spent the whole podcast just on her Japan trip, but she does,
Oh,
all of these amazing things. So
sure.
if you get a chance, check that out because you'll
Okay. All
hear
right.
a little
December
bit of
7th.
interesting stuff
Oh,
about
yeah.
Japan.
December 7th. I will for sure.
Yep, Traveling Judy is her name.
Traveling Judy. Okay.
Lisa, before we let you go, we usually ask our guests some light or even fun questions. Senior executives like fun too.
Absolutely.
So we're going to ask you the same questions.
All right.
So, what's your favorite cruise drink and cruise food?
Okay.
And
Well,
it can be coffee, it can be tea, it can be whatever.
okay. No, my favorite cruise drink is my favorite drink no matter where I am. It's a wonderful Napa Cabernet.
There you go.
And my favorite food is Middle Eastern food. And you can actually get some great Middle Eastern dishes on Celebrity because every great chef that we had running our culinary operation, their favorite food to prepare is Middle Eastern food.
Hmm.
And that's my favorite food.
This gives me an opportunity to say something that the listeners may have heard before. My single favorite meal, not on a cruise, my single favorite meal anywhere was on Celebrity Beyond at Le Voyage.
Oh, yes, Danielle Ballou, our
Yep,
friend.
yep.
Great chef, great man, great restaurant. I'm so happy to hear that, Paul.
What's your most wonderful or memorable or funniest or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
Okay. My most fun and memorable cruise experience was the cruise I took to the Galapagos in April of 2017 with my two nieces, Sophia and Jillian, and my sister. I think it's the only girls' trip we've ever done. And those three girls are the most special girls in my life. Making Waves is dedicated to Jillian and Sophia. They're
I,
my hope.
I read that
Yes,
a message from Auntie.
yes, a message from Auntie Paul. And that was my niece Sophia's. All the kids get a cruise for their high school graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her high school graduation. And she wanted to go to the Galapagos. She's a big environmentalist and loves everything in the ocean. So we went to the Galapagos, and that was my most memorable trip. Me and my three girls. It was just, I will never forget it. It was fabulous.
Great, great. Third question, I call this an oddball question, and it's an oddball question in that it doesn't necessarily relate directly to cruising. So you have obviously you have a large following. Let me say welcome to the many Lisa Lutoff-Perlo fans and friends listening. We certainly hope, Lisa, that your fans have enjoyed what they have heard at the Joy of Cruising podcast and will come back for future or past episodes. Share one thing that my listeners and your fans and friends don't know about Lisa.
Hmm. I think the thing that people probably don't realize about me is I am an introverted extrovert. And I have spent so much of my career in front of people and with people. And the thing that really gives me peace and makes me happy is just being a homebody, hunkered down at home by the fire with my little puppy. And people probably wouldn't expect that would be, that is, my dominant desire or desire. And the other is that I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, although a lot of people might know that because I talk about him all the time. And I think about, what he did in his career. And, I have a chapter in my book called Watch Me Prove You Wrong. And I love that Tom Brady just spent his entire career trying to prove people wrong. And so I have a tremendous, first of all, I just think he's and one of the reasons that I love him so much is because we're from New England, as you know, and we were huge New England Patriots fans. And for my whole adult life that I watched football, Tom Brady was the quarterback for the Patriots. And I will never forget the wonderful family memories we have on football Sunday because of Tom Brady and because of the Patriots. And that, for me, my family means everything to me.
Thank you so much for that. By the way, have you seen the movie? I can't remember the name. It's they're supposed to be older women. Is it 80 for Brady?
80 for Brady. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, listen, not only do I love Tom Brady, I love Lily Tomlin, I love Jane Fonda, and I love Sally Field, and I love Rita Moreno. And those women were so amazing. They're just, what a great cast of women. That was I really enjoyed that movie. I've seen it a couple times.
Such a cute movie. Such a cute movie. And on the first thing that you said about being an introverted extrovert, I really appreciated those words because, I consider myself an off the charts introvert. And that has a lot, I suspect that has a lot to do with what's behind me starting this podcast. I get to talk to global cruise personalities like yourself and bring it to the cruising community, but I'm behind the scenes and I love it.
You love that. My niece Jillian is she's like you. She's very much, she's not an extroverted introvert though, or an introverted extrovert, whatever you say. She's an introverted introvert.
Yes.
Like you.
Well, I was going to ask you one last question, but you kind of talked about it. You're going to do some lecturing. You're going to do some coaching. I was going to say, what does the future hold besides being a best-selling author? Because that's going to come.
I hope so. From your lips.
So, Lisa, it has been great talking to you. Good luck with the book.
Thank you, Paul.
And good luck with your, how should I say, your new life that starts April 24th. And thank you so April of 24, I should say. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the Joy of Cruising podcast.
It's been my pleasure, Paul. Thank you so very much. I hope your listeners continue to follow me on social media. I hope they buy and find some valuable lessons in making waves, and they can always visit my website at Lutoff-Perlo.com.
Oh, that reminds me. Say something about how listeners can get their hands on making waves. Yes,
there's a couple of ways. You can order Amazon.com. Has the book, BarnesandNoble.com, local bookstore, and Porchlight for any listeners who might want to buy bulk orders of the book to give away as gifts or to their staff or to their teams or at conferences. Can go to Porchlight.com and order the book. And if you go to my website, LisaLutoff-Perlo.com, you will find links to all of those places where the book will be available. And you can also learn more about me.
There you go. Lisa, all the best to you in your future endeavors. And as they say, I will see you on the ocean.
Yes, you will. And you continue to enjoy your cruising. And thank you so very much for having me as a guest today, Paul. I truly appreciate it. You take care, my friend.
You too, Lisa. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, for $18.99, can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.